Well, good morning, everybody. This is Tony Rand from APMP. Just to let you know, we'll be starting today's webinar in about 1 minute's time. So we'll just let people come into the room and we'll be starting in about 1 minute's time. So please take your virtual seats and we'll speak to you soon. Well, good morning, everyone. As I said a minute ago, my name is Tony Rand. I'm the Director of Business Development for the Association of Proposal Management Professionals, APMP. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to another edition of APMP sponsored webinar series. And today's presentation is from our friends at Technomile, and it's on building a modern data-driven capture cloud. Now, as you all know, if you've attended one of these things before or any of APMP's webinars, our typical webinars are free to APMP members as a benefit to their membership. And we do our best to keep them vendor agnostic, or in other words, we want our webinars to offer takeaways that you could begin implementing immediately without having to solicit any particular services or products. We've learned over time, however, that many of our topics do deal with technology solutions, and a fair amount of our members are calling for more information about the products and services themselves. So whilst APMP remains vendor neutral, we want to offer options where a vendor can produce a presentation for you with no restrictions to the content they provide. These sponsored webinars might include product demos, best practices that you might be able to utilize with other products, but maybe things that only the vendor or software can do, and so on. As always, you'll receive a survey afterwards, and please let us know your thoughts about every aspect of this experience. Was it clear to you what you were going to see? Was it valuable to you? What advice do you have for the vendor, etc.? We do share your comments with the presenters. Now, before I turn things over to our presenters today, know that today's session is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be emailed to all registrants a few hours after the presentation is over. Now, on questions. As you think of questions throughout today's session, I encourage you to check out the GoToWebinar control panel, where you'll find the questions pane. You can type your questions there at any time during the presentation. Please don't feel like you have to wait to the end, and we'll do our best to address them later in the webinar. We've agreed with the presenters they'll take all questions and deal with all the questions once they've concluded their presentation. Okay, I think we're almost ready to go. So I'll introduce our presenters to you now. Kevin Brancato is the Senior Vice President of Product Strategy at Technomile, where he guides the company's vision and strategy to deliver an innovative cloud platform for government contractors that fuses data and leverages leading-edge technologies to help companies improve efficiency, gain actionable insights, and mitigate risk throughout the entire capture-to-contract process, resulting in more contract wins. Helene Johnson is the Chief Value Officer for Technomile. She was the President of Bid to Win Consulting, which was acquired by Technomile on November the 1st, 2021, and Helene's expertise is focused on strategic capture management. So without further ado, please take it away, Kevin and Helene. Thank you very much.
Good morning. In case you can't tell, I'm Helene and this is Kevin. So as Tony said, that I'm the Chief Value Officer, and yes, my specialty is in the area of capture management. So today I'm going to be talking about real live examples, mostly my experiences with capture and how we can make it even more efficient. Kevin?
Yeah, and I'm an economist and analyst. I've been studying the data behind capture, behind business development in the federal space for the past 10 years. And I'll be talking about how to use that intelligence and your intelligence to make capture better.
And so, just so in case you know, Kevin and I are connected at the hip here at Technomile. He's the technical guy and I'm the end user. So that's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to start off by just talking about capture management and the evolution of it. And I'm going to do that by telling you a quick story. So a long time ago, a young woman, and early in her career, after doing program management, being in the government, and also application development, decided that she wanted to be something called a capture manager. So she went to her boss and said, I want to be a capture manager. And her boss said, great. Why don't you go ahead and talk to our other capture managers and they'll teach you how to do it. So I went and sat with our capture managers and I watched them and I said, you've got a year and a half here. How do you even know what you're doing? And they said, oh, we just know what to do. So we just do what we know what we have to do. And I kind of looked at them and thought, this isn't going well. So after a while, I decided I'm not going to get anywhere this way. So I went and did what most capture managers do. I went for Shipley training. And I learned a lot about Shipley and their methodology, and it actually made a lot of sense of the things that you have to do to run captures. So fast forward to recently. We've been running captures, and we put all of our information that we've got in something called, which you all are very familiar with, but most of we put it in either in SharePoint or the Virtual Proposal Center. Well, the VPC was always set up for proposals. So the first thing that we had to do was set up our topology in the VPC so that all of our artifacts could be stored in there. And then we would run the capture and we'd store all of our data, we'd store everything. Everything that we had to give to our proposal folks, we stored in the VPC, hoping that when the RFP came out, they would magically know how to go into the VPC and find everything they need. Let's fast forward to now. Now we're finding that the practice of capture is evolving, and it's evolving to use tools that have the data in them, but also have all of the capture processes in them. So the tools will walk you through everything that you need to do as a capture manager and everything your capture team needs to do, and it will allow you to store it and make it searchable. So that when you have another capture, and let's say it's for the same agency, you can search the tool for all of the things that you did in the other captures, and you can reuse them. Or even if it's a different agency, but the same technology, you can find everything you need in the tool because you've stored it all there. You also don't have to copy and paste. Most people, most capture managers get really tired of all of the presentations they have to do. They have to copy and paste the opportunity slide, all of the information that they have. They have to copy and paste it into each deck. Well, when everything's built into a tool, it just picks it up for you automatically. Mm-hmm. So the bottom line is, it takes the bad or the non-fun side out of capture. It takes the monotonous administrative side out. So nowadays, it's more fun to run captures. And that's what we're going to talk to you about today, is how to make it more fun and less monotonous and tedious.
And there are real implications, not just for fun, but what you see on the background of this slide is that the evolution of capture is one where it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and not as many companies can do it. As you have progressed, more and more companies can do it. Captures can be quicker, captures can be more thorough, there's choices to be made, but more opportunities can be managed through the process. A lot of people like to say they can do capture, but they don't have all the resources necessary, don't have the processes and aren't set up. And so what you see is today, I think we have a good framework now for understanding how to put a process in place, and tomorrow where we can leverage all the data. So, right. And that's what we're going to talk about. So.
Exactly. Okay, so let's just talk, why do we even need to be more efficient? Well, you know, everybody has automobiles and planes and trains and, you know, ways to get from one place to the other. And that's all fine. But now we're seeing that if we create some efficiencies, it'll be good for our pocketbooks and it'll also be good for the environment. So along came the hybrid car. And as you know, It does save on fuel, but it also helps the economy because we're not putting as much stuff in the atmosphere. Now, there are some good things about efficiency and some bad things. For instance, those of us that are heard here in the Northern Virginia, DC area, we had people waiting on our main highway, I-95, for 18 to 24 hours. If you had a hybrid car, you may have regretted having a hybrid car because you might not be able to have enough fuel and electricity to get home. But still, efficiency is really important. And Kevin's going to talk about another efficient mode of transportation.
So on the right side, you see a standard commercial airliner. And you may have noticed, as you've been flying, lots of you fly lots of places, the tips of the wings or winglets. And those are there to change the vortices, basically provide increased fuel economy for a jetliner. That's pretty interesting because these are standard technologies, and you would say, well, that's a little change. Could it have a substantial impact? Yes, it actually has quite a substantial impact, which is why you see a lot of fleets have shifted and retrofitted their planes to this. So what you see on both sides here are technologies that existed that needed to have enhancements on each of them, either a process enhancement or technology enhancement that weren't immediately obvious to achieve the end aims. But the need for enhanced efficiency is there. It's in there in technology, but it's in there in process as well. And these are two very simple examples that demonstrate where you might want to take this in different areas.
So what's that got to do with Capture?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we know that there's some challenges in Capture, and everybody has their own needs. For instance, take the executive or the growth leader in the organization. Their goal is to grow the company as much as possible, and they want to do more with less. They want to save their B&P. They want to be able to do as many captures as they can, hoping that some of them will stick and you'll win some. So they have to hit their numbers, but they don't want to do it by spending every penny they have. They want to do more with less. Now, the business development people, they're focused on their pipeline, on their diverse agencies. They want to have lots of wins against their portfolio. So they want to have enough B&P and they need to convince their management to go after their deals and have as many wins as they can, because that's how they are compensated. The capture manager, they want to do more with less as well. They don't want to do the monotonous things. They don't want to do the tedious things. They want things to get easier. I can tell you that running multiple captures is very difficult because you can get confused about your strategy, about your teammates, about everything. So the more you can keep in the computer, in the technology, the better, because it helps you keep your work straight. And the goal of the capture manager is to win their assigned opportunities. So the better their tools are, the better the technology is, the better they can do. And then there's a proposal manager. The proposal manager's job is to take that story that the capture team came up with and put it into a form of delivery, whether it be electronic, whether it be paper, which isn't happening very much anymore. But their job is to translate that into the story, into a winning proposal that will help us get our win themes across and convince the government to buy our solution. The proposal manager needs thorough capture plans from the capture team, because if they don't get them and the RFP hits, they have to start from scratch. And there's nothing worse than having 30 days to come up with an approach, get the writers, and get everything produced. So the better job that the capture manager does and delivers to them, the better. So if you have the right tools and the right processes and the right data, capture is doable for any organization. And we're going to go drive down a little bit more into talking about that.
Yeah, what's interesting about this is we know some of the folks listening work at companies where some of these roles are merged, right? Where there aren't enough resources, there aren't enough people, or it's just expected people are going to wear many hats. But these needs are consistent across. You still need somebody who's in the capture manager role, somebody who's in the proposal manager role, even if they wind up being the same person overall. It's important to spell these out because different needs imply different values. And the what somebody gets out of the capture process, what somebody gets out of the enhanced capture process, really depends on where they sit.
Mm-hmm.
And every single one of these roles will see different sorts of value. And somebody like me, who's more of a jack of all trades, can do many of these different things, sees lots of different values everywhere. It's very exciting to be able to say, okay, well, it's more opportunities, better assessment, more thorough assessment of each opportunity. That's where it gets there. And so you get to pick. You don't have to do everything for everyone, but you see there are wins across the board.
Right, and we're going to talk about roles in a few minutes anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of
Yeah.
gave me a good lead in. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so the way we look at capture is that there's an art of capture and a science of capture. So today, Kevin's going to talk more about the science of capture, and I'm going to talk about the art of capture. So I'm going to start with the art.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the art of capture is strategy. There are things that the computer still can't do for us, and that includes, and that really is highlighted by strategy. A capture manager, people always ask me, like, what makes up a capture manager? And two of the things I say is, one, they have to have a thick skin, because a lot of folks get mad at the capture manager because you're never managing your people. And the other one is that you really have to have a strategic mind. You really have to be able to think strategically about, how are we going to win this? How are we going to beat our competition? How should we price it? What team construct would look the best? What is the customer really thinking? How do we get into their mind? All of that is really not something that you would pick up from technology. Those are things that we have to come up with ourselves, the human being. And that's good, because frankly, we're not here to put the capture manager out of business. We're not here to take away their job. You still need capture. But if you can help the capture manager not have to do a lot of the things that the computer can do, then they can focus their time on what's important. And they can have more time to do more captures and not get confused, and just focus on, and I'm going to say it again, the fun part of capture, because capture can be fun.
Yeah, and the science is more along the lines of the information, the data, how you organize it, how you process it, how you turn that information, structure it in such a way that people can use it and really think through. And we're talking about enhanced capture. So it's not just, okay, I understand, I think these are the 3 or 4 competitors I may be up against, and I know the sorts of things that they've done. And this competitor is weak, this one is stronger in this area. No, we're talking about and ensuring that you specify which wins your competitors have had that really show their strengths and what their key capabilities are, and really laying it out, and being very thorough about the information that is out there already. Not talking about the information that you're going to get through your specific contacts. Yes, of course you have to do that, or other areas, but taking that, which is really essential, and making sure it's available for a specific capture and the next one. Not just available, but structured in such a way that it's useful for all the decisions being made, right? So I think you actually need both halves of the brain here working. I really like this illustration. This is really, really cool with the gears and the swirls.
Right.
But both are absolutely essential. And that's what you see here. It's the 2 different parts of capture. And so this is wonderful.
And one of the things that Kevin just talked about was the competition. We all do black hats. A capture manager, a really good capture manager, facilitates a great black hat, and they put themes into each of the teams to help them come up with a really intense analysis. I always say the way to measure whether you have a good black hat is if the capture team is scared. If they're scared at the end of it, you did a good job. Now, the data that you get from that black hat, that also is stored in the system, in the tools. Mm-hmm. So not only can we create briefing books and save the briefing books on our competition and do what, like Kevin said, where we can reuse it, but that human side, that analysis side, that information is put into the system as well. So that next time we do a black hat, we're going to remember, oh, those are the people that we think bid low or have a lower rep rate or have failed at whatever technology or thing that you're selling. So the idea is to be able to reuse and, like Kevin said, to make sure it's in a format and it's available to everybody so that we don't have to relearn every time.
it's not just minimizing the drudgery, although that's definitely a part of it. It's about seeing the signal where you might have otherwise missed it had you not organized in such a way. I was asked a question pretty recently. Somebody was looking at some task orders in Oasis, and they really wanted to understand where the largest competition would be faced. And you look through the data and you go, well, certain agencies have a lot more competition, and it's agencies you wouldn't expect. Or certain contract types face a lot more competition, which might have been obvious to some people, but the scale and understanding of it, when you take that data and you say, okay, well, I want to compete on this task order, you want all the context there. And having that public data plus your private data, as we'll get into in a minute, is really important.
Okay, there you go. All right, so what we've come up with a very simple formula. We believe in order to win, you have to have people that have the strategy and the skills and do their own part. I'm going to talk about their part in a minute, but do their own roles in the capture team, along with processes embedded into the technology, so that not only do you store your data, but you won't be forced to sit and ask a capture manager, what do you do all day? This system will walk you through and tell you what you need to do, when you need to do it, and it really does help. It helps not only to increase your probability of winning, it helps with your scalability, because remember, you can do more than one capture at a time and not get confused. You also can do repeatable things. So you can pick up information that you've done on other captures or even across your business or your organization. Somebody else may have done something, and everything's out there. So you don't have to call all these people and say, hey, do you remember when you ran a capture of whatever? You also don't have to dig, I call it digging, but you don't have to look on the internet all the time. Every time you get a capture, you have to go in and you have to research and research and research. We can store all of that information inside the technology. We talked about efficiency. The accessibility of the knowledge repository is vital. And like I said, you don't have to start from scratch. The next two bullets are very important. One is a lot of people say, I want to be a capture manager. Maybe you've been a proposal manager for a long time. Maybe you've been a program manager, and you just really think that running captures and doing strategy and winning new business and helping people get employed and helping people save their jobs would be a really nice career. Well, instead of having to do what I had to do, which was go take classes and learn from big stacks of books and things, you can have everything at your fingertips, and it will help train the next capture managers. The last thing is, it's really hard to attract and retain capture managers now. As you know, it's an employee's market now. Everybody's trying to recruit and everybody's trying to attract the best of the best. And if you are an organization that uses tools and technology, saves you that time of automation of the administrative side, you may be apt to want to stay there. And if you're trying to recruit people and you tell them how you do it at your organization and how you've used automation technology, they may be more apt to come work for you versus somebody who's still doing Excel spreadsheets and Word documents or using the VPC.
Yeah, we're seeing now in the marketplace that it is actually very difficult for a lot of companies to, as we have here, create the capture talent. They're trying to steal it from one another. The idea is there are lots of people that could be in this area that would probably really like to be in this area and find it a little bit mysterious, or companies that want a set process. They know that maybe they don't have dedicated capture talent, but they have people who could fill those roles, and they would want somebody to make it easy for them to be a part of these teams. And as you'll see, there's a large amount of information you need in a capture to really get this done. And people at your organization either have it today or they had it before, and wrangling all that together, making sure they have access to it now is what's really difficult here. Now, we have a formula up there. That formula is, my math teachers in college would be very upset that we have something which is adding and multiplying simultaneously, but it's really hard to describe this interaction of process and technology, because I think we didn't describe it. Capture is hard, right? It's just hard to do right. And so there's a whole confluence of things that are happening here to get success. So we're just trying to say you need all this together to get success.
Right. Okay. So this is something that I've talked about for a long time, and I firmly believe in this. To me, a capture team is like an orchestra. So the capture manager is that dude in the middle, the orchestra manager, and or the orchestra leader.
The conductor.
The conductor, thank you.
Yes.
See, he helps me with my terminology. So
Right.
the conductor, and he or she's job, his or her job, is to make sure that everybody plays together and they're right, comes in at the right time, plays the right notes, and everything is working together. And if something isn't, let's say that violin player misses a note, or there's no drummer there, but if you have a drummer and he bangs the drum the wrong time, it's going to destroy your whole orchestra concert. Well, it's the same thing with capture. Everybody in capture has their own specialty. And if people in the capture team don't do their role when they should and how they should, you're going to have all kinds of problems on your capture, and your probability of winning goes way down. Because let's say, hypothetically, since this is APMP, that your proposal manager happens to miss something that is required, maybe using the wrong font or something. Well, then the proposal isn't going to make it through. So just one person can take all the efforts from the capture team and ruin it. So let me show you a little bit of an example here. This could be a little bit of an eye chart, but I think it's very valuable. We use this, we call this our business development capture RASI, roles and responsibilities. And as you can see, on the left, we have every role that is needed to go from qualification, once a capture manager is assigned, all the way to pre-proposal development, which is when the RFP comes out and it is given to the proposal manager. So across the top, we have each of the orchestra members, and all of them have a role to play. Some of them may be in a lead role at certain points of the capture, and some may be support, and some may just provide some intel or information. You can see that everybody needs to be involved at all times, but you may not have, as Kevin was saying, you may not get value if you participate in something that maybe you don't have any input to. Mm-hmm. Except for the proposal manager. I believe the proposal manager needs to be involved from the beginning to the end, so that they're not surprised and they have all the information already for them. It can make a huge difference when that RFP pops and you have 30 days to turn it around. So this is my orchestra. These are the responsibilities, and this is when everybody comes in and comes out.
Yep.
Okay. So I've been talking about the people side of this more than anything else. And as you can see, if the humans have the ability to focus their time on things that we need the humans to do, the things that we as human beings have that computers still aren't very good at, and that would be that strategy, making decisions, deciding not just who we should put as teammates, but why we should put them as teammates, why we should take them, whether we should take them off the street or whether they bring something that we need, or maybe they have a relationship that we don't have, or maybe they have past performances that if we don't use, we're going to fail. So there's all these reasons that we make all of these decisions, and those decisions can't be made yet with a computer. And I'm hoping to keep our jobs alive, that they won't be able to make it with a computer anytime soon. So don't do that.
Try not to.
Okay.
Now, actually, what we're talking about, and I think what we recognize, is that humans are the most valuable resource that a company has, and you really want to make sure that you're using them at their most. You don't want people doing silly things that have limited value relative to other things that can be done. Every aspect in that role, all those responsibilities we showed you before, they all have to be done. These are things that if you really want to do capture, sure, you can try to cut corners, but if you cut corners, then you're not really following the process. You're going to do capture-ish. That's not what we're after here. We're about enhancing the capture process with other capabilities. So we want a simple visualization of putting people and giving people the information they need to make the best decisions. So you basically put the human on the right side of this scale towards the more sophisticated, the more advanced capabilities that they need. So what will a machine do? A machine can provide an initial estimate, an initial, not a decision, right? But putting all the data in the right place to see it. So if you want to know, for example, the average lead time it takes for a procurement, you want that data at your fingertips. You don't have to go spend hours calculating this, going across the data. And I know you do that because I've done it and you've asked me to do it. And I've seen that. So you're spending a lot of time generating important data. And what we really want to do is ensure that that data is in place for when you need to make the decision, spend less time doing the arithmetic and more time doing and making the decisions.
Right, like I talked about earlier about the characteristics of a good capture manager. One thing I did not mention is that a capture manager needs to be a really good researcher. I call them diggers. And the reason I didn't say that because as long as you have people that work with you, then they've got the skills that is needed to do digging. But it would be really nice if the computer did it for you and then you didn't have to rely on those people. Saves money and saves time.
Yep.
Let's go on. Okay. I'm not going to spend a long time on this because I really want Kevin to get into the whole cloud thing. But this is a typical capture process. As you can see, it's an iterative process. You don't cut corners in here. You have to do all of these things. But capture managers can focus on facilitating these things and getting the information and putting into the system. But this is what we rely on within the tools to hold the data and allow us to take it and put it into a capture plan when we need it. This is the stuff that we need to help make us decisions. But to actually keep it all in separate files and folders and spreadsheets and documents, well, that's not necessary. And remember, it's a continuous capture. These things start a year and a half out, so you're constantly redoing it over and over again until that RFP comes out.
Yep, the RFI comes out. It has a slightly different specification. They have more detail about the desired goal. Your solutioning changes. Right. Also, the competitors change because now you realize maybe there's a wider or narrower scope, and you have more experience and more knowledge. You can update that competitor analysis. And the same thing with the customer. They're overall, they're not just this requirement, but another one can change.
Okay, so we just did a time check, so we're gonna go a little faster.
Yep.
But we're gonna take a quick poll question here, and I'm gonna read the poll question to you, and then we'll get the results. So, how mature are your capture processes today? Are they absent? You don't have any. Are they limited, emerging, very mature, or super advanced? Go ahead and answer that, and we're going to wait a couple seconds for the results. I'm assuming that everybody's going to say advanced, but we'll see what we get for this.
We'll see.
Okay, we're gonna look at the poll results. Click on that. Okay. You know what? We will show them. We'll get these poll results out because we are not seeing them. So
we're not seeing them on our side.
Let's move forward.
Oh, we got some assistance here.
Yeah, we have assistance.
Okay, so the poll results. The majority is emerging.
Emerging. Okay, so majority of people have some, and they're getting more and more mature. That's good. And then absent. Yeah, you probably need some, and they're available. So that's great.
So, kudos to the quarter of you who have a mature and advanced capture process. We actually like seeing that.
Yeah, we do. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. You want to talk about fusing?
Sure.
Okay.
So we've talked about the process itself. Now, how do we expect this to work out in the future? So at the topmost level, we're talking about fusing these processes and technology because you have an existing process. Or sometimes it's simpler than what we described, sometimes it's more advanced, but you have an existing process, but often it's manual. Often it's not tied into a tool. So you have some people who are really good at capture, some people less good at capture, but you often don't have consistency across a capture. And inside of a capture, you don't have all the information you need. So what we're talking about doing is taking that valuable intelligence that you get by following the best-in-class process, putting that process into the technology. And then that technology then takes that information, stores it, and makes it available for future captures. So you can actually see this spinning around, and it has a mutual advantage. So you're actually guided through in the technology, but what you need to do. So we have a whole series, a set of other webinars. We can talk about how to build this. We're going to go through the short version. That way you have it. Both public and private data are required. And so what do I mean by that? You all know what public data are. It's every document in the RFP, the RFI, and it's all the historical data from you and your competitors of everything you've won, where. It's all the specifications and the capabilities. And what you need to do is take all that data, take it in, clean it, connect it with your other information, other public information together, and make it useful to you. So if you're doing IT stuff, you don't need all that construction work, for example. You get down to the information that you need.
It's also information like strategic plans from the agencies that you may want to sell to. It could be their own B300s of the projects that you want to go after, the opportunities you want to go after. So anything, it's that stuff that we talked about that the diggers get. All of the information is available free online, and you just have to know where to go. And
there are other sources that you can have. A lot of your companies have multiple sources, but finding the best way for you is probably putting it all in one place. Okay. So the second part is what we just talked about. You build the capture management processes into a growth tool. That's all your private data. It's all your emails. It's all the communications. It's your understandings, what you've learned from wins and losses, and your after action reports. It's all your assessments from the previous captures that you've made. So everything from your win strategy sessions, all that output, it's data.
Yeah, and it's what we used. We used to put in SharePoint or VPC, or have even on OneDrive, we have a whole bunch of folders and files and stuff. Not that accessible and not searchable. That's the problem here. So this is building it into the system.
Yeah, anyone can copy paste a slide, but knowing which information is the most current often is a huge challenge.
Right.
So the third part is you want to create intelligence by mapping these things together. So for example, as I mentioned earlier, if you're going after an OASIS task order, you really want to understand how you have fared internally and what you've understood internally about your competition, but also this wider information and making that available during capture. But once the information, go ahead.
No, I was going to tell them the fourth one.
Yeah, go ahead.
The fourth one is letting the senior executives make the right decisions. Once we can present everything, a capture manager does not want to lose. So if a capture manager thinks that an opportunity is not winnable, they're going to recommend a no bid. But they have to explain why. Why are we going to take something that we've been working a year on and spend tons of BMP on, and now you're coming to me and saying no bid? Well, it's because our information tells us that we can't win. So at the same time, it could be on the flip side. We have information that says we can win, but we may need to invest in marketing or branding or other things to make it happen. So the more information that we can provide to the senior leadership to spend their money wisely, the better for us as Capture and as the senior executives, as the keeper of the dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we're going to do another poll question. So I am going to bring that up for us. Oh, I am bringing it up, so you can tell that I'm not the technical person here. Otherwise, I would have had it up.
We have our private data stored in our cloud here, but it's not structured to give immediate answers to this capture.
All right, so this question says, does your organization use sophisticated analytics to aggregate information collected during a capture? And our first option is yes, we start all captures from scratch. The next one is we have a data repository, but no built-in intelligence. And the third one is we have a robust data analytics tool already in place. And if our helper brings us the results, the answers are?
Well, I have a prediction here.
What's your prediction?
My prediction is that someplace in the middle. I mean, it can't start all captures.
And you're right. Ding, 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 ding.
It is.
Some have that they have to start every capture from scratch, which is so frustrating. But the majority of people have a data repository.
It certainly feels like you have to start a capture from scratch.
Exactly.
Yes, and a very small share have a robust data analytics tool in place. That's excellent.
Right.
We would definitely recommend that.
Okay.
So, as I mentioned earlier, making sure you have both public and private data is pivotal. That's because there's more data available than ever before. We showed you earlier this timeline of capture, and largest companies did have Capture for a very long time. Now there are a lot of tools that are out there that provide more data, but it's getting cheaper and cheaper and easier to have that public data, also the private data. So we think it's a level of competition. It's a level set that you need to have. And so the public data, just make sure people drive in, you can have both private and public provide a high level understanding. It's historical spending and opportunities, forecasts and budget, as well as plans, and the private data, your entire history internally. It's really important to have all this organized. And when you put these together, people realize, well, that private data, it's actually very important, and we don't have it structured as data. We don't think of it as data.
Right, and one thing that I just noticed that we don't have on the private data that's very important is lessons learned, why you lost.
Mm-hmm.
If you lost, or even if you won, why did you win? What did the government say they liked about you? And if you lost, that's so important. Oh, there it is, lose history.
Lose history.
That is really important.
Yeah.
So we learn from our mistakes. We may find out that they'll never pick us. This agency just has something against what we're offering, or for whatever reason. So we don't go after deals there anymore. So okay, let's move on.
Yep. And so we can turn from just data. What are you going to do with this when you get all the data? So a lot of people at this time just take a look at the data. There's a trend line, or give me an average, or something else, or I need an estimate. We need to know when the RFP is going to be, what the value of this is going to be. Great, and you can do that. But there are tools that can do that. And whether it's artificial intelligence, as we talk here, or it's a simpler version of intelligence, it turns the data into expertise. And the way I frame this is there are two different ways it does that. On the left side, you see that it's a quantitative prediction, or on the right side, it's a qualitative recommendation. And these are related, but really fundamentally two different things. Because when you have to produce a number, you have to produce a number, right? And that's what a prediction model can do. And it can get you a value or a date, make an estimate, have an initial set of a P-win. Now, I would never encourage you to say, that's the end, the machine knows everything. No, that's ridiculous. What it does is crunch in a lot of data and then point you where the source of that data is. That's the point here. And on the qualitative side, we have a lot of folks who say, well, Technomol, you got a lot of contact data. Who should I be talking to? Well, okay, like that's the sort of stuff that makes it's important, but it's not just, again, to reflect earlier, it's not just who's there. It also is very important of what is the strength of your relationship. And that's the sort of assessment we need to be able to pull together. There are 100 people in that office. You have excellent relationships with 2 of them, but only 1 is in that field. Then we should be able to tell you that's an important person to talk.
And I'm going to give you a real life example.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we have to do for every capture is we have to do a customer analysis, where we're looking at each of the customers, at their roles, and what makes them tick, or the hot buttons, or people say what keeps them up at night, whatever it is. And we document that. So at this agency, we have Jim, and Sue, and Ted, and Jim is really into soccer, and Sue is into tennis, and whatever it is. It doesn't matter what you can find out everything and anything about your customer, because that may help you bond with the customer. Well, if we keep that all documented from that customer analysis session, and then we decide to go after another deal in that same area, that same customer, we don't have to have that same customer analysis session, or at least we can just update it. But let's reuse work that we've done in the past.
Yes. So, not going to go through the whole detail. This slide is designed to tie everything together, where you have a very good sense of where all this stuff is important. I'm just going to leave it there and say, if you want to build a Capture cloud, you have to do all these sorts of things, and it's hard. The one thing we didn't talk about so far is security. Absolutely essential. Your data is extraordinarily valuable. Don't want to just give it away because of security that slacks.
Yep. Okay, so I'm going to bring us home here.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we going to do with all this stuff? Well, the bottom line is the Capture Manager has one deliverable, and that deliverable is the Capture Plan. And if the Capture Plan is concise, if it's well done, if it has all the information in it, look at what it has. It has the same things that are going to be asked for in a proposal. So from the top bullet is all the work we've done. So what is this opportunity, and what's our plan to win it? Our themes, our discriminators, our value propositions, all the work we've done. Even how we're going to ghost our competitors. That's in that part of the Capture Plan. Then we have a staffing plan. So we have the folks in operations work with us on how they're going to staff it. And of course, we match that with our basis of estimates. So when we do our pricing plan, that's in the Capture Plan as well. As well as who's our teammates and why are they in there? Why are they on our team? What's our technical plan? What's our as is and to be? What really are we selling? Because a lot of times we're not going to sell just what we do. We're going to sell what the customer needs. We also have a transition plan in there, and you're going to need that for any proposal. And we have what's the plan for past performances? Which ones are we going to use? Have we contacted the customer? What has the best CPARs and so forth? And the last one is our capture action plan. That is really important for a capture manager to keep the capture going. If you think about having to do a capture for 1.5 years, you better have a capture action plan. And even once the RFP hits and the capture plan is handed over to the proposal team, the capture team still does things like the contracts, the teaming agreements, the pricing, and all of the other things that we still have to do while the proposal is being written. Proposal resubmission has a lot of things, not just the story.
Well, and just one final thing here. We know you all love spending all day doing all these things, right? Every single thing about it. The capture plan is meant to be this concise version of all this information that really is necessary. We understand actually the process of creating that is pretty difficult, which is why we're running through this and saying that's why you need to put this in technology, because running this, as we said earlier, is hard.
And nobody wants a 60-page capture plan that they don't even know where to find everything. There's no table of contents even. So, okay, last poll question. Sorry, I had it and
Up above.
up above, up above, up above.
No, it's
No,
not that.
okay, so our helper is helping us. Go
As
ahead.
a proposal professional, how frequently do you receive a capture plan? First is, I often get a capture plan. I regularly get a capture plan, but they're not really usable. Third is, I rarely get a capture plan. And fourth is, what's a capture plan? Never seen one.
Okay, and we're going to wait for a couple seconds here. What's a capture plan? I know what a capture plan is.
Yeah, well, we just finished talking about it. Hopefully they know.
Yeah, and plus I've done a lot of them. Yeah, with a lot of slides. Okay, you got the results here?
Uh-oh.
I rarely get a capture plan wins. With the next one is I've never seen a capture plan. That makes a whole lot of sense, folks. And that's why you need capture people, and you need to have a plan that is repeatable so that you don't just, the RFP doesn't pop and you have to start from scratch.
I love these questions.
Me too, these are great. Okay, so all right, so now we're gonna wrap up. So this is what we told you today. We told you gotta have the right people and the right processes, and the technology needs to have the processes and the data in it, and that's how you can enhance your capture. That's how you can create efficiencies. That's how you can recruit. That's how you can retain your capture managers, and that's how you can win a lot more business.
Value across the board.
Exactly.
Yes.
So with that, we would like to thank you, and we want to open it up for questions.
Yep.
Tony?
Yes, thank you guys. I really enjoyed that, and good degree of engagement. Just so you know, I don't know if you saw the statistics, but just under half of everybody on the webinar responded to your polls. So I think you've got a good level of response to that. Just a few questions for you. Could you please, this is from earlier on in the presentation, could you please define a black hat?
A black hat, yes.
Yes.
I'll do that.
Fine.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll follow up.
All right. So black hat is a session that usually it's done between 1 and 2 days, and the capture manager and capture team identify who do they think is going to go after this deal. So if it's a recompete, you're the incumbent, but you need to know who's going to try to take away your meal. Okay, so you need to know, you research who does the kind of work you do, who knows who's in that agency. There's tricks about it. The business development person goes and looks to see who's been visiting that client. And if you're going after another deal, okay, one of your competitors is the incumbent, unless it's a new deal, and the other competitors are probably people you've seen a lot all the time in your area. So what we do is we do some early analysis where we create briefing books, and we do that before the black hat. So we go and we have a template that says, who's the competitor, what deals have they done, what's their footprint in the agency, what's their bid strategy, all that information that we would get out of our tool now. And before we had to research and do a lot of digging. So we create these books, and then the day of the black hat, we divide the attendees. You have all your teammates there, you have a lot of your executives there, anybody, you can get as many bodies in there as you can, and you divide them into teams. And those teams become your competitors. So everybody hears the briefing from the capture manager, and then they go into breakout rooms and they try to figure out, based on the information in the briefing book and also any information they have, maybe they used to work at the company and a lot of times you're just making things up, but you try to figure out what would that competitor do to beat you? You know, what kind of strategy would they use? And that usually takes about a half a day, and it's fun. I got to tell you, it's fun. And the capture manager tends to come in and plant little nuggets on you so that you, knowing that it's going to make the capture team scared. And then at the end of this, you all come back together and you pretend that you're that company. And you even put together an executive summary, and you get up and you say, I'm from company whatever, this is my VP of whatever, and my president of whatever, and you introduce everybody, and they're all making this up. And they do a presentation to you, the capture team, who is pretending to be the customer, and they say why the customer should pick them and not your company. Mm-hmm. And everybody does that. And then by the end of it, usually if you do a good job, like I said earlier, the capture manager is usually kind of slumped in their chair and going, we can't win, oh my God, we can't win. And then everybody takes their black hats off and they put their white hats on, they become the good guys, and the whole team talks about recovery. What can we do to overcome what the competition can do to us? So we do a SWOT. I'm sure you all know that, the strength, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats, and we figure out what is our new win strategy. Out of the black hat, and by the way, you do the customer analysis before you do a black hat, because we have to know who we're selling to. So out of those two sessions comes your win themes, your value propositions, and your discriminators. Why they should pick my company and none of those other horrible companies that we modeled, and what we bring to the table that nobody else brings to the table, what makes us different. And it also comes out with your win strategy. What should we do now? We still have a year left. Should we put banners up? If we're going after something for the FAA, should we put banners up at the airport? You know, where should we spend our valuable marketing dollars or branding dollars? Should we buy lanyards? What should we do to start branding our company so that a year from now, when the customer opens up that proposal and they see our themes, they're going to go, oh, that's what they were doing. They were playing us the whole time. So that's what Black Hat is.
Yes,
it's
a war
Thank you very much. Really thorough answer. I appreciate that. I think it's almost potential for another webinar on that. I think you've broke it down beautifully well. Thank you, Helene. Just another question. This question is from Edith, and I rather suspect this question is from somebody who responded to say they've never seen a capture plan, at least from within their current organisation, because she's asking if you can give her any idea about the quantitative indicators that can help to demonstrate that capture management is missing in an organisation. I think we may be feeling her pain, but if you can help with anything on there or give any suggestions about how we can identify quantitative indicators that can help to demonstrate that capture management is missing in an organization, that'd be really appreciated.
You want to take a first stab at?
I'll do that. Actually, I'll go back to a slide because you want to hook onto something very specific. Let's go to this slide where we've talked about solution development, competitive analysis, and customer analysis. You want a simple metric here. You want to say, how many times am I, for all these deals we're pursuing, do I actually perform a customer analysis? Do I actually perform a competitive analysis? And if you're not doing that, if you're not doing it in a real way, it's a very simple metric to say, we're never looking at the competition here. We're not looking at it from somebody else's eyes. We're not looking at what the customer really wants. And then just do that simply for those that you've actually bid on. That's the first start. For those that you've bid on, have you done this? And then those that you decided not to bid on, right, but you've done some sort of review, at what stage have you actually done this analysis?
Right.
And so then you get to start to see, well, we're actually not really thinking all that hard about some of the key challenges we're facing. And maybe you'll start to see, you know, actually when we do a competitive analysis, we really do it, we win more. When we start to do a customer analysis, we win more. That is what we see, is why people do capture. So I think that's one way to actually get a solid metric.
Right. Another way of doing it is gate reviews. In gate reviews, I always put in gate reviews two things that are really important. One is a traffic light, a stoplight or dashboard, whatever you want to call it, that talks about the health of the capture. So if your senior management has a cadence where they meet with the capture team every whatever months through the capture, and you're part of the capture team, let's say you're on the proposal manager, you're going to know that they have what they haven't done and when they haven't done it. So you're going to say, you know, you're behind here. You should have done a customer analysis. When are you planning on doing that? So you're going to know the health. You're also going to know it based on just the output that you get at these gate reviews. Yeah. So gate, never, ever, ever taken for granted that the team did their job unless they have the responsibility to brief executives every so many months through a capture. And you'll know then if they're doing what they should do way before the capture plan is due.
Yeah.
Right, a few more questions, guys. We're pushed for time. We've got 5 minutes left, and we've got a half a dozen questions on the page. So I'll try and rattle through these as quickly as we can. So maybe keep your answers as concise and focused as you can. This is from Victoria Hamilton. Is capture planning for a business development team to handle before it hits the proposal writer's desks, or should there be, or should these folks be included together for the capture management process?
Should the proposal team or should the business development team?
So is capture planning for a business development team to handle before it hits the proposal writer's desks, or should the proposal writers be included together or should everybody be included in the capture management process?
The proposal manager must be included at the very beginning. I would say that don't worry about being involved until the capture manager is assigned, because a lot of these will be killed before you get to capture manager. Okay, there will be no bid. But as you see here in this chart, a proposal manager, even though I only have, inform on a couple things, I have learned through my experience that the earlier I bring a proposal manager in, the better, especially when it comes to marketing, because proposal managers think a lot like marketing folks do. So they'll know that if I'm going to write a proposal, I want to make sure I have an overarching graphic, and I want to make sure that we post these out for the public to see. Proposal managers have a lot of good skills. So I would say business development, which is business development managers and capture managers, should pull in the proposal manager early and often.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you very much. How would you define the complexity size of an opportunity which, in your opinion, warrants capture, as opposed to an account manager sharing their account plan information with a big team? Is there any way of defining that? That's quite a tricky question, isn't it, really? I think it's very subjective.
Every organization is going to handle it differently, but some will say it's a certain dollar threshold, right? And some will say it needs a certain number of their technical specialties, right? So it's the complexity of the work that's being performed. I think there's no universal answer to that question.
Except I will tell you this, though. If you have a vehicle and you're going to go after task orders, and those task orders are a 5-day turn, you would think that you're not going to do capture. However, if you know that customer, you'll know 6 months to a year before that they're going to let out a task order, and you should be doing capture on it. Maybe not once the task order is let out, but there should always be some capture and research done for every account plan and every agency that you sell to. You can also do a slimmed down capture. You don't have to do every step. You can have a capture light, but if you don't do anything and you just are a task order machine and you keep cranking them out just because they came out on the vehicle, your P-win is going to be way low and your people are going to burn out. Your proposal managers are going to burn out if they don't have any story to tell and they have to come up with it every time.
Okay, we haven't really got a lot more time, so this might be the last question, but can you give some information for the audience on how a strong capture plan helps to improve the proposal development process? What's the impact of a strong capture plan?
Well, as you saw, if you want to bring up the capture plan content, look, every proposal asks pretty much for the same thing. Section L, Section M, they pretty much have everything in it. One tells you what the proposal should look like, and the other one says what it should have in it. And if your capture plan has everything in it that you're going to be asked, think about it. You're going to get your transition plan written in, may not be pretty English, or perfectly written, but it's going to be spelled out. So when you get the RFP, you're going to just be able to pull that right out of the capture plan and know what you should write for your proposal. The same thing for every other thing, your technical plan. If you have all of these solutions, the OV1s or the pictures already drawn and explain what you're going to deliver, you got it. You just have to put it in the format that they want and make it pretty. So a good capture plan tells your whole story, and all you have to do then, and I know that sounds easy, but what you have to do is make it readable, make it presentable, and make it, configure it exactly what they want. Compliant is the word I was looking for.
That's good.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, guys. Now, first of all, I'd like to thank our sponsor today, TechnoMile. That was a very, very, very worthwhile presentation. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Very well delivered, very concise and on topic. I'm sure everybody enjoyed it immensely. In fact, it's very timely because Capture does seem to be an emerging area of business for APMP. A little plug for our own Capture qualification there. But that aside, it's been a great addition to our pantheon of sponsored webinars. And we'd like to thank you for presenting such great content today. To all our attendees, please respond to our very quick survey about the webinar. We do read your feedback and it does help us to plan future webinars in this program. You will be getting a link to the recording as well as a survey in just a couple of hours. So I just wanted to wind up today by thanking you all for joining us. Hope to see you at the next presentation and have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.